Oh yes, it's coming in 3, 2, 1. On the air with FDT-TV, the premier West Ham and Arsenal football podcast, brought to you every Monday by Hawes Ian Varker. Hello and welcome to episode 30 of On the Air with FDT-TV. We are here every week, usually on a Monday, sometimes on a Tuesday. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel for all your for all the latest content that will be coming soon. How you doing, Mike?
Yeah, good mate. You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Felt a bit robbed again, but I'll take a 1-0 without our best player on the pitch. Oh, it's not the end of the world, but that's a discussion for a little bit later on. So first things first, we've got a little title this week on the YouTube. So this week in football, we did see the Manchester derby. We saw Eriksen have a little bit of a scuffle, and we saw many other things as well. There is many other things, but they're generally the top two off the top of my head that we're going to go through. So we'll start off with Eriksen, I think, because the other one might take a little while. What did you make of his first game back?
Firstly, it was great to see him back. I know he's been obviously with Brentford for a little while now, looking to get himself back up to match fitness, and it was from where we were in the summer, thinking possibly he could never play again, to making his Premier League return.
Yep.
The scuffle bit was highly entertaining because you could see there was a little bit of a niggle between the two people. Go down on the floor and he's practically cuddling him to hold him down or whatever, and then obviously he realizes who it was, and you could look like he was about to throw a punch, and then he saw it, was like, oh, it's you, and then gave him a hug, which I think in the spirit of things is quite good. I mean, it was a bit of a silly foul to commit, but it was like, welcome back to the Premier League. Is what you've been missing.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite fun. I think he was quite instrumental. I mean, they beat Norwich 3-1, Ivan Toney getting a hat-trick. So even just maybe his influence has given Brentford that little lift and that little bit of creativity and class in midfield that they've been lacking.
I mean, he took the corner for their first goal, didn't he?
He did,
yeah. So yeah, you can't argue with that. I mean, he's still a quality player. I think time's just going to tell whether his heart's going to be able to take it. I know he's obviously got the technology to kind of zap him back to life again if the unthinkable could happen again.
Yep.
Very much like we see for Daley Blind, we've mentioned a couple of times on the channel. But I think this is very much going to be a watch this space for him. Possibly 1 or 2 seasons max.
And do you think all the players are going to look out for him, or do you think there will be a few that will just put in some crunching tackles anyway and not really care?
I think you've got to go in as you would, and knowing Christian Eriksen, he'll probably end up. In fact, I'm not even going to say it because I think that's a little bit harsh. But it might get injured in another way, which could be a little bit dodgy. So no, I think in all honesty, I think people have to kind of play as if it was anyone else playing. I know, obviously, it was a bit of a one of these incidents which unites all football fans together, despite the previous clubs or anything that you've played for. But as soon as you get on the pitch, these things need to be forgotten about, and you go as is normal. Yep.
Yeah, I'll make you right. And that leads us quite nicely on to the big game of the weekend, the Manchester derby.
You don't mean the Arsenal-Watford game?
No, mate. No. Although that was quite an interesting game. We'll get into that one because I've got a few opinions and a few questions on that. Blimey. So Manchester United seem to be in a little bit of disarray at the minute. It's probably the worst they've been beaten in a derby in a long time. I think Chelsea. I think Manchester United had Manchester City had like 26 shots. I think like 69% possession. They just couldn't touch the ball, and everything that they did do was just poor. Do you think an interim boss that they know isn't in the running for getting a job full time was a bad thing to do?
Yeah, to be honest, I think Manchester United over the last couple of seasons have done or made some very, very questionable decisions. To be honest, I know Ollie was going through a bit of a bad patch at the time, but I mean, it always seemed to be that he was always one result away for quite a while. And I get that enough has to be enough at some point, but you've got that level of stability. He'd been there for what, 3.5 years.
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense to me at all, and it seems very much that the players don't really understand what system needs to be played. I'm sure this guy's a footballing genius, but if the players don't buy into it, it becomes very difficult for the players to get any sort of result or any sort of form together. And they've been a bit, I'd say, shaky, I suppose, under Ragnarik, or however you say his name. I mean, it's good. It's good for
everyone
all
else.
The teams, who are obviously challenging for the top four. But it's just I don't know what's happened to Manchester United. They've become a shadow of their former selves. And I know, obviously, we have our moments, but I like to think that we've now got some form of identity. You can tell the boss wants to go with the younger players and the people that want to play for us.
Yep.
Whereas Manchester United, it just seems to be a collection of big name signings that you can't seem to get to gel together.
Yes, I make you right. So that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, actually, is with the clear out we've seen from Arsenal having major effects, and Manchester United currently sitting on one of the highest wage bills in the Premier League, one of the most expensive pounds per point ratio. So I think they've actually spent the most money per point they've won in the Premier League, and also the fact that they are now getting worse than they were under Ollie. Do you think that come the summer there will be a huge sort of shaking of the rug? That's what I'm going to call it. I don't know where I was going with that, but just to get rid of all of that shit. Like, I reckon you could probably, I mean, some of the players that would put in an effort are now going to be out of contract, or they've already are out on loan, and the ones that are not are on big money. And yeah, I can't. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, apparently there's dissent within the team that Harry Maguire's still getting on the pitch. Apparently Ronaldo doesn't like Rangnick. I don't mean, this is all obviously rumour, speculation. But it does sort of show on the pitch that may be the case, that no one really wants to play this style of football, that no one really wants to be there and put in an effort. And the world's best player can't carry a Premier League team on his own. So do you think they're gonna get rid of a load of deadwood, or do you think they'll just continue to pump money into it and sort of forego the bad signings?
It's a difficult one. I think they need to have a serious look about the players that they've got on their books. I mean, we've just to keep going back to the Arsenal position. There was a lot of players on big wages, which I think when we were talking about for the likes of Aubameyang, I think it would be a perfect example. In fact, Mesut Ozil, these players are on massive contracts. And to have the courage or the balls to go, right, okay, this is the position. Yeah, you're pissing around. We don't want you playing in the team anymore. These are your options. You can either rot on the bench or you can basically bugger off. I don't see that there would be many clubs that would do that. I'm not saying it wouldn't be done. I'm not by any means trying to say it's groundbreaking in any way, but certainly for the time that I've been watching football, you don't really see many teams doing that, where you've got your stellar signing or whatever, and they've been kind of like cast aside because they're not putting the shift in, or they're not adhering to the club's values, which I really do admire in some respects. I mean, I know there's frustrations that when you look at the player, in fact, for both those examples, when you look at them as a player during their peak period with us, they were phenomenal. But then you start seeing them putting a few bad performances together, obviously with the disciplinary issues as well.
Yeah.
It's only when you see them gone from the club and how we've been. I mean, you said it a couple of weeks ago that you said you think we would perform better without Aubameyang in the squad. And obviously, I don't think he featured for us since the end of November, beginning of December. Mm-hmm. And what an upturn formula we've had. I know January was a bit of a shitter month with us for some of the results that we had, but we're now 4 wins on the bounce. And sitting in fourth position now with 3 games in hand on some of the teams around us.
Yep.
So there's every potential that we could get the top 4. Obviously, I'm not kind of counting my chickens too early because I know how very quickly it can go in football. But I've just to go back to your question, I don't see Manchester United being the type of club that would look to tear up people's contracts. They're a money club, and I think they would just try and fix the problem by investing more money into the club. And then you end up with a position potentially like Jesse Lingard, where he's out of contract in the summer, and featuring. I know he's featured in the last few games or whatever, but I would be gutted if I was Jesse Lingard, being told that you can move on twice now, because that's 2 transfer windows. In the summer and in January, and he could have been staking a claim on his England credentials for the summer. But yeah, I don't. To answer your question, I don't see him doing it. It's going to be our money.
Yeah, and obviously Edward Wood is now out the door with someone else coming in. I think that's the position that Rangnick's going to take up. Is that? Oh no, he's going to take up the director of football, isn't he?
Director, yeah.
So obviously they've got a new chief executive officer coming in. That may make a difference as the way it's run. I don't know. You'd hope. I think Manchester United fans will hope so. But obviously, growing up, I knew Manchester City was always known as the noisy neighbours. So, quick quiz: who was the big signing that Manchester United made the last time they won the Premier League? Can you recall that? It was a little while ago now.
A big signing.
They made
Mike Owen?
No. It was one Robin van Persie.
Oh, of course it was.
And he sort of won it against Manchester City for him. Sort of nipped him in front for the run-in. But yeah, that was the last. I mean, how long ago was that? 7 years ago? 8 years ago now? Something like that. But yeah, so I always knew City as the noisy neighbours, but I don't think they're noisy anymore. I think they've overtaken like by a country mile. And when people go, yeah, but they've spent £500 million on defenders. What was it, £75 million on Harry Maguire?
Yeah.
That's what
75, 80 million.
That's what they sold Ronaldo for in his prime.
Yep.
I don't know what to say. But the thing that has become apparent, I think, for a lot of people is obviously Jack Grealish for £100 million. He's struggling a little bit. I think he's listening maybe to a few people too much and riding that wave of the big or the pressure that comes with the big transfer fee. But Pep has now come out because they only have one striker, which is Gabriel Jesus, who sort of played on the wing. He's played as a false 9. He's not really ever hit the ground running as a striker as such. But Pep's come out and said, I want a striker. I need a striker. And with Mbappe, Haaland, Kane, Martinez from Inter Milan. There's an Isaac from Sociedad. There's a number of big strikers out there in a minute that are looking for, or were looking for moves allegedly in the winter transfer window.
Mm-hmm.
So, who do you think could end up at City? Who would you have to, if you had to put a fiver on it? Who would you put on?
See, going into the summer, I think we would both say Harry Kane was kind of like Manchester City's top target, but he had a bit of a diabolical Euros.
Yeah.
At the start of the season, it was shocking because I know obviously he come out and said that he'd had the agreements, but it was kind of like almost a done deal as far as Harry Kane was concerned. But Tottenham priced him out of a move, and to be honest, I mean, I know he's scoring goals again, but I just don't think he's the player he was a couple of years ago. But then I don't know.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think an agreement been reached in principle with Mbappe already to Real Madrid.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly, he from what I've read, Mbappe said, "I will be leaving at the end of the year. I would like to go to Real Madrid, but I'm not discussing anything until my current contract is up." So,
which I think is fair.
Yeah, and I think that's
respect.
I think that's a show of respect to the Paris Saint-Germain fans. But yeah, it's reading between the lines and all the speculation that's gone on. I think he's probably already agreed something in principle. But yeah, gentleman's agreement, like.
Yeah. In all honesty, mate, I don't know. It is a tough one, because there obviously could be other players. Well, any player would be.
Yep.
The right player if the price is right, but
so here's my theory.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my theory. Kane's price has dropped from what it was. Daniel Levy wanted 200 million for him.
Yeah, something stupid.
So with the Euro, I think they went to 120 or something like that. With the Euros, slash 20 million off his transfer fee, 100 million quid. With his current season, I would say take another 25 off, 75 million quid. His age, you got to look at it with the other transfers that's about. The fact that Tottenham could very likely not finish in any form of European place will drop his value.
Mm-hmm.
I think Daniel Levy will hold out for about £75 million, if I'm honest with you. And I think maybe in instalments or with performance bonuses, that could be a figure that Man City go for. I don't think they would pay much more than that now. Especially being as Haaland got a clause in his contract. I know Riola wants £1 million a week or something silly for him. So I think Haaland would probably be number one.
Yep.
I think they will definitely put in a bid. I think they'd be silly not to. But if not, I could see Harry Kane still going there. And you give him the ball, he'll do a job. I don't know of any players that have gone to Man City and played under Guardiola that have got worse. Not all of them have played much, but I don't know any that have got worse.
Yep.
So I think he could be the one that ends up there still. And then he might win something.
You'll join him and they'll just start bottling it.
Well, there was talks of him leaving, wasn't there, at the end of his contract, which I think is the end of next season?
I think he had 2.5 years left on his deal at the start of the summer.
Right,
or
okay.
3 years.
So maybe another 2 seasons then potentially. But yeah, so watch this space. I think they're running away with it. But yeah, so I think that moves us quite nicely on to a section that I have just entitled as Arsenal. So you played Watford and you won 3-2.
Yep.
I would assume that obviously, as you said, the 4th win on the trot, you're happy with that result.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Played some really nice football.
Mm-hmm. For spells.
Arteta got an assist.
An assist to an assist, yeah.
For chucking that ball in as quick as he could. Technically, he weren't in his technical area. He should have been booked. But Who cares about rules?
The Premier League, don't mate.
Now, this could have come under VAR, but I'm going to put it under Arsenal. There was a couple of penalty shouts for Watford in that game.
Yep.
One of them, I think rightly so, wasn't a penalty. The second one, I think they should have got as a penalty, if I'm honest. Doesn't mean they would have scored it. But what's your take on those two penalty shouts?
I can't remember the second one. The first one, I think, without a shadow of a doubt, was not a penalty. I think this is the one where I think it was Ben White had a swing at someone, trying to stop the ball, and you can see quite clearly he didn't even touch him. So I can get that one. I can't remember the second one.
The second one was, I think it was João Pedro in the second half. He ran in, done Cedric at right back, went to go round Ben White, went round Ben White, who then sort of grabbed him round the waist and bundled him over, and they ended up in a heap on the floor. And that one, I was like, we've seen penalties given for less. I think that was I think it was a foul. Potentially look at was it inside the box or outside the box, because they were right on a line, but it wasn't given as anything. And I think you were, in terms of VAR, quite lucky there not to concede a penalty.
I must have completely missed that one. I must have been looking away or
holding
my daughter or something.
The referee literally just went no and ran off. They didn't even check it, and you're like, he definitely had him round the waist. Whether that was a cause of him to go down, but he definitely had him round the waist. So Ben White had a few lapses, which has been uncommon for him this season, I would like to say.
Yep.
But I do have a question. Going forward, are you now top 3 contenders rather than top 4 contenders?
Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say mathematically it's not impossible, especially if we beat Chelsea in one of those games, because I think we're only a point or so behind them now.
You're 5 points behind them with the game in hand.
Okay. So if we were to beat them, that would bring it down to 2 points.
And then you've still got a game. And then you've still got a game in hand until you. Well, I think you play Leicester twice in quick succession. So
I don't want to say anything because I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to then look back at the end of the season going, oh yeah, I was not well confident or whatever. I'm going to kind of sit on the fence on this one a little bit and just say the diplomatic would take each game as it comes. It's good effort from the boys today. They all put their shift in. No, I would love to see us finish top 4. And to be honest, I think we've got no excuses with the amount of fixtures that we've got in terms of all we've got is the Premier League now.
Yep.
We've got no excuse. Well, there seems to be a good chemistry between the lads, which is great to see. And as you mentioned just a second ago, some of the play that we had for the goals, I think, were phenomenal.
Yeah.
All 3 of them. Yep. I've seen this term banded around a lot on social media a lot this weekend in terms of Wenger ball. That one touch tiki taka football. It was brilliant. But I think the reason why I'm saying we need to kind of like take each game as it becomes, because there were a couple of lapses in the defense's concentration.
Yep. And
that certainly is Wenger ball.
Yeah.
It's certainly Unai Emery ball. Where we seem to kind of have a grasp on the game, and then we get a little bit complacent. I think the game against Wolves is another example of that. That momentary lapse of concentration can cost you, and I think we were very fortunate in that game to end up coming away winners with that one. But we've said it on countless occasions. As long as we see the players putting a shift in, it becomes a lot more tolerable.
Yes.
When you start having these stupid lapses in concentration. So yeah, I'm very happy with where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would love to see us back in top 4, and I think that has to be a minimum objective. I think anything less than that will be a disappointing season.
Okay, so
given where we are.
So with that being said, I do think you're going to get finished fourth spot. Obviously, you've still got that game in hand over United. United are in a shambles. West Ham failed to strengthen in any way, shape or form, and have still got two Europa League games to come, and are already look fatigued in the season. Jared Bowen could be out injured for a little while now. Still waiting on some stuff for that. Do you foresee problems next year when you are in the Champions League and you've got extra games, and either it's not going well in the Champions League or it's not going well in the league because you've got the extra games? Do you then foresee that sort of part of the fan base, which we know can be quite volatile, turn and go to Arteta out very quickly?
To be honest, mate, I think the next game that we lose, whether it be against Leicester we've got next, or whether it be, I don't know, against some absolute muppet, I think the manager's always on this volatile journey with some particular fans. I mean, when you look at some of the criticism that he come into during the summer for signing Tommy Yasu, for signing Aaron Ramsdale, and look where those players have got us. It does frustrate me sometimes with how fickle and how volatile our fan base is. But I'm sure you could say the same about a lot of other teams' fans.
Yep.
For me, I know there are going to be losses along the way. We're a very young, inexperienced side in the grand scheme of things when you compare us to other teams. But you can definitely see an identity against us, an identity with us at the moment, which is really nice to see, because it seemed to be, for a long while, we're not really sure what's going on. But we've seen, obviously, the clearing of the deadwood. We've seen some of the toxic players out of the team now, which is really good and refreshing to see. And you can see all the players are wanting to kind of work towards that goal. I mean, you have moments where Lacazette should be playing up top, but you see him kind of helping back with the defence and stuff, or the midfield.
Yep.
And then busting the gut to get up top again. Which is really good, because it's something that we don't always see. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to see us top four, but I genuinely think there's going to be massive recruitment during the summer.
Fair enough.
Because there's obviously a few positions that we need to strengthen. So
yeah. And if you get that recruitment right, you'll go from strength to strength. If you get it wrong, you end up like Manchester United.
Yep.
But that's all part of having a good head of recruitment, isn't it? So, final question from me on Arsenal, and then I'll let you have your say for whatever you want to say about them. How long before Arsenal stops becoming the youngsters and just becomes? But that's what Arsenal are. That's the players. That's who you expect. They're no longer youngsters, because there's a number of first team internationals in that squad. And we all do go, but he's playing youngsters. So how long before it's just Arsenal?
I think you that's a very good question. And I think for as long as there are young players in the team, they are always going to be youngsters, aren't they? Because I think technically our first 11 is, on average, the youngest within the Premier League at the moment. Mm-hmm. And you have to consider that some of these players are 18, 19, 20, 22, 23 years old.
Yep.
Which is phenomenal when you look at the position that we're in at the moment. But like I said, with that, you do run the risk of some stupid errors from time to time. I would say certainly from next season, Saka has been, I think, pivotal for us for 2 seasons now. It's not just a one-season wonder. This is the second consecutive season. Obviously, Emile Smith-Rowe started breaking into the first team last year. It's definitely made more of a mark this year. But then you've got the likes of Merton Ødegaard. I think it's going to be, whilst we are the youngest squad, I think they are always going to be referred to as the youngsters. And I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not saying this in any way, shape, or form that what's going to happen. If we were to win the league next year, they would still be the youngsters, even though the majority of them are seasoned professionals within the Premier League now.
Yeah, but we all know, Mike, you can't win anything with youngsters.
Yeah, true.
It just doesn't happen. But yeah, no, fair enough. And have you got anything else to say about Arsenal this week?
No, other than what it was a good shift that they put in, some absolutely amazing football. But yeah, I stop making stupid mistakes, you idiots.
Fair enough. Well, so I did feel for Aaron Ramsdale a little bit. That first goal was unbelievable.
Yes.
That overhead kick sent him the wrong way. It was great. But
yeah, you see him in the replay and he's rolling after the ball's in the net, and you're like, you had no chance, mate. You had absolutely no chance. It was a super finish.
Yeah.
Second goal was a stupid mistake, but first goal, absolutely. Credit where credit is due.
So we'll move on to West Ham, who took on Liverpool the weekend and lost 1-0.
Yep.
Don't think that was a bad result, if I'm honest, considering Declan Rice was not even in the squad, and the fact that their goal should have been ruled for offside, and it wasn't. Not that VAR's unfair or anything, but I'll take that. It's not. I don't think it's a bad result at Anfield against the best team in the world. So yeah, not terrible. Jared Bowen potentially injured, but that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm a little bit gutted for you guys. I think you guys put in an excellent shift in, especially when you consider how well Liverpool have been doing. And there's some still bitter Liverpool fans at the moment. When you see them coming out, oh, massive my arse and all this sort of stuff. They're still bitter, mate, from earlier on in the season. Absolutely bitter. But no, you're right. The goal for me, I think was offside. Sorry. I get why they've started doing this in terms of the not showing the drawing of the lines. I'm not sure what achievement that has by not showing them doing it.
I think it's to show that because previously they were redrawing to try and get it right. I think there was a lot of calls for people saying it's a fix. We know it's a fix. Quite clearly it's a fix because some of the lines are not even straight or in the right place or consistent. But I think that's the reason why. It's just to say, here's a decision. Oh, away you go. It just frustrates me. We're going around in circles week after week that they can't get it right and they're not consistent with it. And I don't understand what needs to happen to make it consistent. New officials, yeah, but that would be nice. If I'm honest, though, when you look at the chances, I think we could have won 2-1 there. Early on, Antonio stung the gloves of Alisson and it looped up and almost went in. It went in the roof of the net. And then Lanzini threw on goal.
Oh my God!
Managed to get it down because it was a whipped-in ball, so he did well there. And then I think he'd already sort of envisioned himself running, shirt off, spinning into the distance and on the back page, and absolutely hoofed it. And I know the Six Nations is on, and I think maybe he's taking inspiration from that. I thought he was going to get 2 points for a conversion, but yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great finish.
No.
But yeah, overall, if we continue to play like that, even as fatigued as we are, we'll get results and we'll be at the right end of the table. I know it's a dream sort of finishing in Champions League places, but I'll take another season in Europa League.
Would you? I'm assuming that would be based on possible future recruitment as well, because obviously you're seeing some struggles now because of injuries and stuff, and I know it's very difficult to say, oh yeah, well, as long as we sign this player. I think, what would you, if you were to make Europe again, would you hope that they would make some additional recruitments? I would hope, but I'm not going to hold my breath. So,
So my thought on that whole thing is I don't think West Ham are going to make any signings of note before 2024. And that's partly because that's when we potentially become eligible to buy the London Stadium. That's when the owners can sell the club without having to give any of the money to the London Legacy Committee. And I don't think that they want to put any more money in, considering I think that's the end goal. They picked this up really cheap, as they did Birmingham. They have, and this is a controversial thing, they've done some things well in terms of expansion of the club. They've done some things badly in terms of recruitment, in terms of pissing off the fan base. What you have to say is, from being on the verge of liquidation when the Icelandic banks crashed, and the world finance crashed, when they bought us, to where we are now, where we've got the most season ticket holders in the Premier League. We've got one of the biggest stadiums. We could potentially buy it. The running costs of the club are at an all-time low, and we're finishing higher than we ever have done before. Like, in recent history, like within the Premier League. I think you've got to say it's been a success in some parts for them. Not consistently, but it has been a success. But I think with the fact that they can sell it to the new guy who's already part owner of it, who's interested in clearing debts, buying a stadium, I think player recruitment is going to be a very slow and tedious and frustrating process for fans over the next couple of years. But yeah, so
yeah, fair enough.
As much as I'd like to say we need a defender, we need a left back, we need an attacking midfielder, and we need a couple of strikers and a goalkeeper, I don't think we can get them all. I think we might get a player here and a player there and a freebie here and a freebie there, alone maybe. But I don't think we're gonna. I don't think we go out and break the bank for players.
Fair enough.
But with that being said, every week we do make some predictions, and I have to say I am in the lead. Well, I was in the lead last week. I can't even remember what my predictions were, but we get 3 points if we get the correct result. We get 1 point if we get the correct team. Like if it's a win, and we pick a win, and we get 0 points if we don't. Wrong. Yeah. So, Mike, what were the predictions from last week?
Okay, so we had an extra game in the week last week, obviously been in the FA Cup.
Oh, yeah.
So Southampton versus West Ham. You had 1-1 West Ham to win on penalties. I had 2-1 to West Ham, and it was 3-1. So no points there for either of us.
Yep.
Liverpool versus West Ham. You had very optimistic 2-1 to West Ham.
But it should have been 2-1, shouldn't it? If we put chances away, it would have been 2-1.
I had 4-0 to Liverpool. Obviously, the score was only 1-0, so that's 1 point to me. Watford versus Arsenal. You had boring 0-0. I had 3-1 to Arsenal, and right up until I think it was like 82nd minute or something stupid, it looked like I was on for 3 points, but it was 3-2 in the end. So only the 1 point to me. So that's 2 points for me this weekend, and 0 points for you, which now takes the scores.
It's close now, isn't it?
You are on 38 points and I'm on 34.
Oh, still 4 points.
Still got 4 points. Yeah.
Still 4 points to play for. I take 4 points, mate. That's all I need. Right. So this week's games. First game, Arsenal versus Leicester at Arsenal. What do you think?
I think this is going to be a tough one for us. Leicester always seem to enjoy coming to the Emirates. There's been some cracking fixtures over the years, and I think it's going to be a tough one. I'm not so confident on trying to get the 3 points this week. just because I know how difficult Leicester can make it for us. And I think it goes back to that thing that we said a couple of weeks ago about if Arsenal get pressed, they don't like it. So if Wolves game was a perfect example of that, but they won't be able to sustain it for the full 90 minutes.
Yep.
So I think if Leicester start off reserved, we'll have a chance to win that one. If they come at us, which I think they will, I think we'll get a draw. So I've gone for 2-2 on this one.
Okay. I've gone for Leicester played reasonably well against Leeds with a new manager. Jamie Vardy got subbed off because he couldn't get anything, because Leeds were defensively quite sound, dropping quite deep as well and tracking their men. I'm going to go 2-1 to Arsenal. I feel like you're gonna Leicester may have a little bit of confidence, but they're in real patchy form. I think you got enough about you. If you play anything like you did this weekend, next weekend, I think you'll be fine. Okay.
So the next game then takes us on to West Ham versus Aston Villa.
It does. Obviously, for those who are listening to this game, that's not West Ham's next game. Yes, West Ham do have a game against Seville in midweek at Seville, so we've got to travel as well, but we're not counting that because for that exact reason, I don't want to. So we're essentially we're going to have a tough game. I think we've got to almost throw all our eggs in the Europa League basket. If we get past Seville, I think we win that competition, if I'm honest with you. And I know that sounds a little bit cocky, but I think on our day, we'll beat anyone. And the fact that I know Barcelona's still in it. You put Barcelona against us at the London Stadium, we'll do what we did against Liverpool. We'll turn up, because that's the sort of game we'll turn up for. We'll lose 7-0 to Crystal Palace the week after, but we'll beat Barcelona. Do you know what I mean? That is a West Ham way. So with the travel, with the fatigue, with the potential injury to Jared Bowen, I can't see us getting anything out of this game. As much as I want to, I would take a draw at this point, but I can see Aston Villa sort of 3-0. 3-0 Aston Villa.
Okay.
And that's horrible to think like that, isn't it? Rotated squads. Yeah, 3-0.
Okay, so I went for something very similar, in all honesty. Obviously, Villa played a brilliant game at the weekend. I have gone for 3-1.
Okay.
To Aston Villa on this particular game.
Yeah. You think we're going to get a goal?
I think you will. We will.
I'll tell you what, right? Someone at Anfield did fly across a plane. I don't know if you see that.
Yes.
Cat Lives Matters, which I think was incredible banter. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a West Ham fan who paid for it. But if Kurt Zuma started kicking balls like he kicks cats, we're going to win things.
You can't say that.
Why?
That's bang out of order.
What do you mean is out of order? He's already kicked the cat. It's done. It's done. If he can kick a ball that well, phenomenal. But if you haven't already, let us know what your predictions are either in the YouTube comment section or on Twitter. Our handles are above us and in the description for wherever you are consuming this podcast. And there's lots of people from the USA listening to this. So if you're from the US, then hello.
Thank you.
Hi.
Howdy.
I don't know. I was going to say, I don't know what language they speak. They speak English. Not that I've been there several times and know this stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to add to this week's podcast. I don't know if you do.
Nope, nothing else from me.
Well, on that positive note, then we shall wrap it up here. As we said at the top of the show, make sure you go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. And until next week, we'll see you very, very soon.
Thanks very much.